Hey, listen, and welcome to A Link to the Filmcast. I'm your host, David Reese, in the show where we adventure across the realms of Hyrule and the Silver Screen. Today is our 7th episode, and we're going to actually be bridging how the two could overlap in a Legend of Zelda movie. But first, let's jump into a random Zelda wiki. This week's page is a shrine from Breath of the Wild. We got the Mural Shah's Shrine, which is right next to Elden Canyon. It's right next to, I want to say it's next to a horse stable on your way up to going to the Lost Woods, the forest. It's by Pico Pond. This is the memorable shrine where you use a sledgehammer to try to hit the ball over the railing into a target. And then if you successfully do that, you can either get to the monk or you can go around the monk for a second bonus where you get the chest with an ancient core as your reward. So they provide you some iron sledgehammers and you basically utilize stasis and you use that to hit the ball into the target that they're presenting to you. Overall, it was it's a good shrine. If you're going along the main quest line or if you're trying to play the main game, it's likely you'll find this shrine. It's not hidden. Really, it's out in the open. It's nice that every horse stable kind of has a shrine near it. Because you can't directly fast travel to the horse stables, but you can fast travel to the shrines. What I've done before, which I would encourage someone trying to really immerse themselves into Breath of the Wild, I've done it no fast travel before. And the only time I can look at the map to kind of see where stuff is at a horse stable or at a place that would reasonably have a map. So like Kakariko or Hateno Village or any of the 4 races or Laurelin. Any place that would reasonably have a map, that's when I would use my map. But other than that, just no markers, just following the lay of the land. And that was a fun, immersive playthrough. Of course, that was on my 3rd playthrough I did it. So I had it already kind of knew where all the big stuff was. Hang on, I grab a sip beverage here. I'm coming off of a cold right now. Hot tea in my system. Help the throat. We also had some other Nintendo-related news this week. I know it's not exactly Zelda, but it's Zelda adjacent. Xenoblade Chronicles X is getting a definitive edition on the Switch, which is exciting. I like RPGs. I never really played JRPGs. Like Final Fantasy, I never really played. I gave Xenoblade Chronicles 1 a try when the definitive edition came out on the Switch, and I liked it more than I thought. So then, luckily, when I had that done, I could jump right into Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which came out not too long after Breath of the Wild. And that one I had some mixed feelings on. More anime tropey in that game. And then I had to wait for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which was a pleasant playthrough. And the Xenoblade games, if I ever turned this into like a play-along show where we talk about movies and we play along through games, I would consider having the Xenoblade games in the mix. Obviously, we'll play Zelda games together. That's something I'm thinking about for next year, doing some play-along segments. I don't want this to become an entirely a play-along podcast, though. I want to talk about the topics of the day and talk about movies and other game-related stuff. I don't want to limit ourselves. And I also just want this to be like the David Show or the show where we can kind of make it our own. Let me know what you think. Feel free to reach out. Whatever you want this podcast to be or however you'd prefer it. It's still in the early days. I'm still tweaking things. The first couple episodes, you'll notice I went through movies scene by scene and that wasn't pretty. I kind of want to go through my new approach here. And we got our movie episodes, but I also want to do like game episodes or just unique episodes like this, where we're going to be talking about what to expect from a Zelda movie. Another big piece of news is that Nintendo Music App Store, or not App Store, just the Nintendo Music app, which is a service. If you have Nintendo Online, you can listen, link it to your Nintendo Switch account, or your Nintendo account. I guess it's not just a Switch account. And you can listen to freaking Zelda game music, which is awesome. There's Zelda on there, Mario. You can kind of have it playing as ambient sounds. It's like the only official place you can listen to official Zelda music. Spotify, I have plenty of Zelda remixes and Zelda theme artists I follow, like Hellnet. The lo-fi stuff I really enjoy, especially if I'm just working and I want some smooth beats in the background. I like just Lost Woods with the cool beat playing on. If you haven't checked that out, strongly encourage it. You do have to have the online subscription in order to use the app. But I guess that's like any app, Spotify, Apple Music. You kind of have to have a subscription. They don't have an ad model, so that makes sense. They don't want to hound you with ads. And it's a relatively new thing. And it's another service they're adding to try to make the cost of the Nintendo Online worth it. Another way to justify the $50 a year or whatever it is for the Nintendo Online. Because if you don't play online, like if you don't play the emulator stuff, is it really worth it? If you only use it for the Mario Kart, those extra tracks, is it worth it? It depends on what other things you use on the online service. And adding this music service, now that's a different animal. That adds a different layer of value to the service. So those are the news. That's what's going on in the last week or so that I've seen. And let's get into today's main topic. Today's main topic is talking, I kind of alluded to it in the news. It's a mixture of what do we want from a Zelda movie and what is likely to happen for a Zelda movie. Let's talk about what we know. We know it's going to be live action. We got a director, Wes Ball, noticeably for the Maze Runner movies and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes he directed, that most recent Planet of the Apes movie. So we are going to add that to our list of movies we're going to watch for this podcast. I'm thinking after the new year, we'll work through the Maze Runner saga and then Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I think that's the way we're going to go. Kind of get a taste of what his directing style is and see how that could be utilized towards a Zelda movie. We have producer Avi Arad attached to the movie. He's the founder and former head of Marvel Movie Studios. And I'm not talking about the Marvel Studios under Disney. He created the old Marvel Studios, the Marvel movies that were done before Disney. He was kind of in charge of, he's currently producing the up-and-coming movie Kraven. He's kind of been involved with the Sonyverse, the Sony Marvel movies like Madame Web and the Venom movies and Morbius, which has some skepticism, but there's numerous factors on why those movies underperformed and got pigeonholed into the way they did. And I would like to do a deep dive on those. I would like to do those movies as well for the podcast. We also have Shigeru Miyamoto attached as a producer. Of course, Zelda is one of his babies. He'll want to keep close tabs on this production, just like he wanted to keep tabs on the Mario movie. Nintendo wants to be more involved They don't want a repeat of the old Mario Brothers movie. They don't want a live action nightmare where it's only tangentially, it's not even like related to Mario, it's just using names that are Mario related. That'd be a fun movie to do too. I got a lot of movies I want to do for this podcast. I want to dive into. I want to interact with. I'm trying to think, is there a better way? I've been trying to comment and be more active on Reddit for the podcast. I've been using X for the podcast. I don't know if the listeners would like a Discord. We can figure that out as we go. As more people listen to the show and as I get better at the show, we can figure out kind of a hub where we talk and exchange ideas. But this was announced like a year ago, this movie stuff, and we really haven't heard much news in the last year. I would imagine getting other producers on board, getting a writer or several writers. The big thing I would want to make sure it is solid, if I was Shigeru Miyamoto, I would want to make sure that the movie has a solid script. Because that's the thing that could easily turn people off of a movie. If the script is bad, if the plot line is bad, that's going to have huge ramifications for the movie. So you want to make sure it's tolerable. You don't want it to be bad. And I'm assuming in the pre-production phase, they're also figuring out casting, sets, building, how they want to do different things. Not that it's just a hodgepodge. They want to get everything so it's a smooth shoot for when they actually do make the film. Casting, we haven't heard anything about casting. There's a plethora of fan castings. Namely, the big ones I'm seeing are like Tom Holland as Link or Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Zelda. Those would be fine. Also, we got to remember, these are big celebrities, and celebrities have big price tags, and it's still Hollywood. It's still a movie business. Would they go that way? I guess they did for the Mario movie. They spared no expense with getting big name actors. So they might do that here too. And then Ganon, that's probably the most anxious casting I have. The casting I'm most nervous about. There's plenty of good candidates for Ganon. Ron Perlman, Jason Momoa, Idris Elba. I know the late and great Robin Williams, he wanted to be Ganon if a Zelda movie ever came about. We could have Matthew Mercer, who did the voice acting for Tears of the Kingdom. I think if he wanted to get into live action, he probably could do that for this. This would be his step into live action acting. Or he could just stay to the voice acting, and I know he's well beloved in the Critical Role community as well. But whoever they decide to cast, I'm pretty sure will be fine. Once they make that decision, there's probably tons of qualified actors and candidates vying for these roles. And I don't think Nintendo will choose anyone that isn't qualified. I kind of want a nobody to get cast. Somebody that, and by nobody, I don't mean like just some Joe Schmo off the street. I'm thinking more of a current actor, not A-list, doing Broadway or theater, other forms of acting. And this could be like their stepping stone to stardom. I think that would be really great. Like a new actor comes up and it's like, oh, from the Zelda movie. And then he did all these other things. Kind of like the Robert Pattinson thing. Oh yeah, Robert Pattinson from Twilight, and I guess he was in Harry Potter, but now he's just rocking it doing Tenet and Batman. I'd love to see somebody start their major A-list fame here. But if we follow the mold of how they did the Mario movie, they're going to aim for a star-studded cast. Would they reuse some of the people, do you think? Would they reuse Chris Pratt? I mentioned Anya Taylor-Joy. Could she be Peach and Zelda? Could she be the Nintendo princess gal? Would they use Jack Black again? I don't know. That'll be something interesting to follow. I used to care a lot. About having big stars in movies. I guess this is a big segment about actors, but I'm fine with that. But after Avengers Endgame, where we have so many A-list actors or so many recognizable faces that they can kind of subtracts from the plot, like Endgame as a fanboy is a fun, enjoyable film to watch, but it's not something you can watch over and over. A lot of the novelty is in the actors and their characters interacting with each other. You don't necessarily watch it for the plot, or I don't know. It doesn't pull me in that same way. But the point I wanted to bring up was Dune. If you know me, I'm a big sci-fi person, and there will be sci-fi movies probably in this podcast once we start expanding our horizons. But I had no idea who Timothée Chalamet was. And I ended up loving the movie. Both movies I love, Dune Part 1 and Part 2. And his performance is phenomenal. I like Timothée Chalamet, but I didn't know who he was. But that didn't detract me from getting into the movie Dune. So that's casting. Story-wise, there's a lot of fan theories out there. What could a Zelda movie look like? Would they just do Ocarina of Time, the movie? Would they just do a singular game adaptation and make it into a movie? That would be cool, but I don't think they'll do that. I don't think that's their style. Nintendo isn't the company to really do the same thing multiple times. Hence why we're not on Super Mario Odyssey 2 right now, or Odyssey 3. They want to reinvent themselves each time. They don't number the Zelda games. They're not like, this is Zelda 10. No. Every game is its own thing, its own entity. They'll probably do a plot similar to the Zelda formula, because the formula is pretty relevant through multiple games. Formula being crisis event at the beginning, Zelda needs saving. But we've talked about that before. We don't want the saving princess trope in this movie. And then the hero's journey. There's a call to adventure. He does the crux of the movie, getting MacGuffins or trying to do something to make the plot progress, whatever plot devices they're going to use, and then have a big showdown at the end with the big bad, which is really a safe story plot for Nintendo to do. And they didn't really take any chances on Mario movie. So I feel like we'll get something along the lines of this. Link has to save Hyrule. Ganon is doing something bad. The role of Zelda at this point isn't clear. He has to obtain 3 MacGuffins in order to get the Master Sword and or light arrows. Master Sword's probably more iconic. That's probably what they'll use to be the safest route. And then while he's trying to get the 3 MacGuffins, we're introduced to all the different races of the Zelda franchise. We'll probably have a sidekick. Link will probably have some sort of Navi or Fi or cute character for merchandising, kind of accompany Link, and for dialogue, not just a lone hero. And they'll go with that. He'll get the 3 MacGuffins, get the Master Sword, and then he'll have his big fight with the big bad, which is probably Ganon or Ganondorf, depends on which way they want to go with the lore. And we know guaranteed along the way, the entire movie, we're going to have a lot of bangers. We're going to have a lot of Zelda remixes, lots of Zelda songs, lots of Easter eggs, lots of game references, because that's what they do. They're going to make this thing chock full of references. You're going to catch things on multiple rewatches of this movie that you didn't catch before, just like the Mario movie. I rewatch it and I noticed an Easter egg I didn't notice before. Let's see. The director, he did He did The Maze Runner and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Maze Runner was a book series, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a young adult, genre. I feel like YA is a genre. Would they make this Zelda movie in that genre? They probably could. They could make it teenager oriented or young adult oriented. I wouldn't be surprised if it had the style of a Harry Potter movie. Depends how dark they want to go with it. And then we have the main issue of, are we going dialogue for Link? Link in the game has dialogue options sometimes, but he's not known for being chatty Cathy. He is the player's conduit. He's the stand-in for the character or the player. Would they go... There's several movies where they don't have the main character talk. The main ones that come to mind are WALL-E from Disney and Willy's Wonderland. I feel like they're going to have to give Link dialogue. Or they'll have to get super creative with it. But no matter what happens, with the internet being the internet, I know there's going to be good criticism and bad criticism of whatever choice they do. I mean, I'm interested for them to explore the character of Zelda. Is she gonna... I doubt she's gonna be the helpless princess that's trapped. I would like her to be the Breath of the Wild Zelda, where she's kind of academic and curious, more involved in science. I think that was a good character choice for her. She could fight. I would like that kind of Zelda. Age of Calamity. I know that's not mainline. Tears of the Kingdom, where she's more involved with stuff. Echoes of Wisdom Zelda, where she's just going around helping people. And by the way, if you're not playing Echoes of Wisdom, it's a treat. Especially if you loved the old top-down Zeldas. This is a great new entry that I strongly encourage people to play. I'm trying to savor my time with it. The Link's Awakening remake was my first time playing Link's Awakening, and I breezed through that too fast. So I'm trying to take my time, trying to limit myself to one dungeon a week, trying not to blow through the game, because I know it's going to be a while before we get new Zelda content, but I am thoroughly enjoying myself. I'm trying to do all the side quests and find things, try to get all the echoes, all the smoothies. But that's off top. This show's off topic. I'm okay with that. Also, are they going to play with time travel in this movie? They're not afraid to do it in the games. Ocarina of Time, namely, where it has all the branch endings. Will they start the movie? I feel like they might start this movie at the end and do the 2 weeks earlier kind of thing. For their target audience, being YA or kids, depends on how they want to market it. They could get away with that because it's a trope that they probably don't see too often. I feel like this is going to be a great movie. I'm excited to see what choices they make with it. I'm excited to follow it through production and then hopefully have my mind blown from it. So I think that's going to be it for today. If you have any questions you want to talk about on the podcast, go to ZeldaFilmcast@gmail.com and send us an email, or there's a send a message link in the show description. Questions can be about Zelda, movies, life, or whatever you want. And that's going to be it for this week's episode. Consider leaving us a review on iTunes. We're a growing podcast, and every iTunes review would help us in the algorithm. If you want to interact with me, follow the show on X at ZeldaFilmcast. And next week, we're going to be covering another Studio Ghibli movie, Princess Mononoke. Thanks for listening, and as always, may the Triforce be with you.